Well, we're gonna have the Bourgogne Blanc from 2017, and as I mentioned, it's right down. It's growing right over there, in Les Chazeaux, which is another one of our parcels. Oh, okay. Down there, you can get turned that way. So, really, not far from here at all. I mean, it's I don't know, a little over a mile or so, and put it back on the gallon. Yeah, thanks. Oh,
I'm going.
there you go. And down there, it's a hot site. Here we're south facing. It gets great all day sun from the east to the west. Down there, it's still running north south the vineyards, but it's not as much airflow. It's down in the plain, and it gets hot and ripens really easily down there. And so we get some really nice Bourgogne Chardonnay quality from the Chazeaux down there. And similar, I don't like too much new oak in the Bourgogne Chardonnay. It's really kind of an entry-level Chardonnay. It's supposed to be, consumed on the younger side. And so this is barrel fermented, but we use about 10% new oak in the overall blend, just to give it a little background of some weight and some structure, and a tiny bit of that oak can integrate in without overpowering it. So 10% is not that much at all compared to, say, the Meursault, which is 50% new oak in the Meursault. So the grapes are brought down to the winery, and these are a whole cluster press. So we just basically throw all the grapes right into the press and press it gently to get the juice extracted without over pressing. And once it's settled, it goes down by gravity into our cave, and then is barrel fermented in the cave without, again, same thing, no yeast added. It just slowly starts the fermentation. And the fermentation process here, similar to the Chardonnay I do in Virginia, is a very long transition from juice to wine through this more non-inoculated fermentation. It takes a little bit longer for it to get started, and it takes a heck of a lot longer for it to complete the fermentation. And our caves here are pretty cold late in fall and into the winter, so it doesn't get hot where the fermentation would go really fast and finish. So we actually still have wines fermenting all the way into the spring. We actually had some of the 2019 Chardonnay still fermenting in April, very slowly, but still moving, which is a little stressful for a winemaker. You don't know if it's going to finish or not, but that as long as it is moving and still fermenting, it's protected, and it actually makes it, I think, a little bit more interesting, more complex style. That long transition from juice to wine, the whole objective is kind of retain as much of that fruit as you can in the wine. And a very hot, fast fermentation, a lot of that will burn up during the fermentation, and you lose a lot of those natural, nice fruit notes. So our Bourgogne is meant to be bright, fruity, lighter. You should get a little bit of the classic, apple and pear notes, a little bit of tiny bit of the influence of the oak in the background, but it's really about the freshness of the wine, and really it should have a nice, again, we do stir the lees in this too, so it should have a nice, complete, palate structure all the way through to the finish on the Bourgogne Chardonnay. Any comments on the Chardonnay? Questions? Okay. I don't hear.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
You mentioned in here about malolactic fermentation and then racking the wine. Can you explain racking the wine?
Sure. So after the fermentation is completed, all the dead yeast cells form the lees, what's called the lees, the sludge on the bottom. That's kind of like a muddy characteristic of sediment. And so after the malolactic, we kind of wait for the malolactic fermentation, the secondary fermentation, to go through and break down the malic acid. And then the racking is taking the wines out of the barrel and then cleaning out the barrel, the sediment, and putting back in the barrels. We like to keep some of the lees. As I mentioned, we stir the barrels throughout the fermentation process and even during the aging process to integrate those lees back into the wine to give us some more weight and complexity, some of the nuances from the yeast cells back into the wine. But after a certain period of time, we like to get it off of that sediment. And we still keep a little bit of the fine lees in the barrel to have a little bit of that component still during the rest of the aging process. And it really depends on the vintage. More and more now, since we're bottling, we just bottled the 2019 yesterday. So that was, the last vintage was bottled yesterday. So here we are in end of July. And actually we didn't do this in the 19, we didn't do any racking off the lees until it was time to get ready for bottling just a few weeks ago. So it's went through malolactic and stayed on the lees. But as I mentioned, it was still fermenting into April and May. So we couldn't rack it off the lees because we wanted to finish fermentation. So at that point, we knew we were bottling in July. So I just left the wine on the lees until the end of June before we racked it into a tank to get ready for bottling. So
is the wine filtered, or do you draw it off some other way? Is
the
wine filtered?
Yeah, so I wish I could show you how we do it here in Burgundy, but we actually, we fill the barrels by gravity, and we actually, it goes down into the cave, and in Burgundy, we actually have a little hole in the bottom of the barrel, on the head of the barrel, and we actually take a spout, and there's a tiny wooden bung that's sticking out, that's pre-made. You know, they drill a hole and take it, and so it's sticking out. It's a plug. We knock out the plug with a hammer and stick the spout in, and then I used nitrogen air gently to push the wine from the top down through the hose and up through the hole in the floor from the cave up into the tank room. So it's gently put in the tank, and then the wine is filtered. All the white wines here are filtered since, oh wow. We have a hot air balloon parked right next to us.
See if you guys can see. We got distracted. I don't know if you can see. Anyway, sorry.
So then the wine is filtered, pre-filtered. We do a light filtration to make sure that none of the lees are still in the wine. And then since the wines are exported and for security, I sterile filter the white wines. I don't do that with the red, but the white wines are sterile filtered. So I hope that answers that question. Any other questions on the Bourgogne?
Can you share the pairings and the cheeses that would go with this one as well?
All right, Hannah, you're on.
Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. Thank you for asking. So this one I haven't tasted, but from what you described, I don't think it's going to be super weighty. It's pretty light. So I think it could do like an aged goat cheese, like something that's not going to be fresh, but it's going to have a little bit more, it's going to be a bit drier, a bit saltier, something that can stand up against something that's a little bit heavier. And then maybe a young Comté style cheese, so like a tome, something that's been aged, but still doesn't have a lot of like big beefy notes. It's still kind of light, floral, and a bit rounded. So those would be like a hard cheese that's not too aged is what I would recommend, or a mildly aged goat cheese.
Thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, for food.
Yeah, I mean, roast chicken, a nice roasted chicken is perfect. You know, you don't need anything heavy. You don't want anything heavy, creamy. This is just, you know, has nice acidity, good, you know, weight to it, but not heavy. And so I think our dish, you know, it's obviously fish as well. You know, same thing. You know, a nice piece of broiled cod, but I'd like a nice, for me, ideally, a roasted chicken would be perfect for this.
A little bit more weight to it than the last one, but still not a big meat kind of.
Yeah, no, yeah,
it's not heavy enough. Yeah.
I think the Aligoté has a little more acidity, a little bit more shellfish, seafood. This can go a little bit more towards poultry. Grilled chicken would be great too. So.
Pardon me, Michael. I'm getting the same kind of feel out of this as I would have like kind of like a shot of vodka. Am I wrong? And it's like I got a liquor-y kind of feel to it.
You're wrong. No, I don't know.
Thank you again.
It shouldn't be. I mean, the alcohol level is right around 13%. We lost the gallery view. So I you know, it doesn't have the oak. It doesn't have the weight. So I don't know if you're getting more of the acidity and you know, the alcohol, you really pick up more in the front of the palate. Is that where you're getting that characteristic?
Well, actually, I'm getting it almost on the back end, but no, I know what you're saying. And that it doesn't have the powerful kind of punch of a liquor, but I'm saying, but it's so clean, sort of on the front end, that it kind of has that same sort of thing. Like if you were going to have like raw oysters with it, the same way you have like raw oysters with gin or something like that, I think it would go very well in that kind of situation as well.
Yeah, I think that's more the minerality that's coming through, the the minerality that Burgundy's so known for, that really kind of gives you that kind of clean, crisp finish to it. Right.
Well, it's very clean, and thank you for that.
That's great. Okay. Why we lost our guy? I can't see anybody
Oh,
there.
it's okay.
Okay, there we go. Ivy, are you doing that?
Yes. Well, actually,
How does that happen that I don't see?
The camera's changing. It's okay.
Okay.
As long as you can see us and we can see you,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah, I do keep changing the video.
Okay. All right. So it's not me.
It's my fault.
All right. As long as I know it's not my computer screwing up, that's fine.
No.
Great. All right. Any other questions on the Bourgogne Blanc?
I have a question.
Did you turn yourself on?
I did turn myself on. My first taste of this a few minutes ago, I got kind of an oily finish, and second, third, fourth taste, I'm not getting that. Is that my imagination, or is that the minerality you were talking about?
Well, I think it's the minerality, but I think your palate's just getting used to it. So you're not, I think maybe after several tastes, it's kind of been neutralized, but up front, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Well, are we ready for the Pommard? You like our little stool here? So I guess everyone has the Vignots, Pommard Les Vignots. And so this is the 2017. And that was the year that we purchased these vineyards here in Pommard. Oh,
You can keep it.
yeah. So this is our first harvest from these vines here, and these are older. All the vines that we have here and around Pommard are all over 50 years on average, and so the yields are pretty low. I mean, if you can see, you saw some of the pictures of the grapes here, how few clusters we have on these vines. It's compared to, if you've seen any vines in Virginia.
Where do you want to go?
This right there is fine. So there also is a higher density of vines. So these are 1 meter square between where in Virginia, it's our vineyards there are double that, if almost not triple that. Oh, there's the hot air balloon. Look at that. Yeah. You see the...
Is it in view?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
We're very destructible. All right, sorry about that.
Let me turn it back. So part of the uniqueness of these vineyards here is the soil, the age of the vines, the low yield. All of that is what makes these wines here in Pommard so special and highly sought after. Les Vignots, I think you if you had the technical notes, know the name. Les Vignots is kind of almost more old Burgundian colloquial expression of vin. H-A-U-T-S is for high, so it's Les Vignots is a kind of a blend of the two, and all the names of the different parcels go back so far back. A lot of people don't know all the reasons why they're named. Why they're named what they are. So there's some that have very specific meanings and some that they don't. Nobody knows because it's been so long historically. Oh, I think I just got stuck. Anyway, so this vineyard here, we have a very small parcel. We only make maximum about 6 barrels out of this parcel that we have here. And it's so basically about 150 cases total from this vineyard. So can you click it back to the,